First, just with the opening prayer, just if you just lower that a little bit, because we are, number one, very grateful that we have this opportunity. This is a place that we find it to be very special, and we are nothing without the blessings and the instructions, the inspiration from a supreme and divine creator, who we intimately call it a loving Father. And we know that we have this Father that not just watches over us, but wants us to succeed, for us to find our inner happiness, for us to spread the good news that it was already taught to us, but Christ came and gave us so much hope. The life here is just, we're just passing by. We're just living in this existence to learn, to grow, and many journeys, many times, until we reach a place that we are more perfect than imperfect. We're more balanced. We find ourselves complete, and that's the purpose. We know we make so much mistakes, but it is the process of learning. And we want to give our hearts to this loving Father who's watching over us, who sends us so many good friends in the spiritual form to follow our journey and help us throughout the way. It is with this spirit of gratitude that we say those beautiful and so powerful words that Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Don't let us fall into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. With that, my friends, I would like, before I invite Natasha, I have talked to a very dear friend here, Will, and I actually going to invite Natasha to come here, just for us. If Peter, you can, and here's Christiane, you came. Christiane comes all the way from Tampa. She wasn't feeling so well, so she was fighting. She was fighting to be here. So we're going to have a very quick panel. What we do when we are in that place of problem and desperation. Very quick. I invited my friend Will, that's going to join us here. So I'm going to bring a couple chairs here. Don't be shy, you guys. Come, Natasha. Come, Chris. Come, Will. It's not improvised. It's all planned. So, our friend from the media here. Good. Hold on to that, please.
Okay, you're giving it to me here.
Come here, Fernando. So you gotta forgive if the mics don't work great. The media does not like us here. We have to get this mic. Turn it on. This guy here. There we go. So what we intend to do here?
Yeah, turn one of those off.
That's one should be off, I think. Then we just pass it along.
So,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, okay.
I don't do well with those things.
Good. This will go up, okay.
One open at a time, okay?
No, we have no mics, okay.
No, it's working.
We actually don't need mics, but
It's working. It's working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's working.
because that one is turned off. Can you hear us well?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Our friend from the media, I'm sorry that we're giving you a hard time. So we have a very short program, so we're going to make the most of our time. the question that I have posed here for us and to share with you, and you find yourself in that same place that we're trying to put ourselves into. Just to introduce you guys again, Will is a dear friend. He's a war veteran. He's a hero. He was in Vietnam, and he served our country, and he's now a very, very successful painter, an artist, and we appreciate him being here. Dilma's always here too. They not just come to the house, I consider them workers here. They always donate so much good energy, good positivity, so we appreciate them being part of the program as well. And Chris here and Natasha, they're both therapists. Chris is a physical therapist, and she still helps children with disabilities. Occupational therapist. Okay, same thing. I'm sorry. Occupational therapist. My outdated.
Yes.
And Natasha, as I introduced her already, and I'm just here to make him look good.
Yeah, that's right.
So I start with you, Chris. When you're in that place of desperation, of all of, like, everything is bad is happening, and you know you're in trouble, what do you do to get yourself out?
The most important thing that I have to think about is the monster eating me up, or is just a little close to me? If it's just close around, just nearby, if the monster is nearby, I go for walks, I find nature, I move, I find ways to move. I love dancing, so I go to Zumba classes, and that does the trick. You know, moving, going for a walk at the park, those things work good. But if the monster has actually eaten my brain and is telling me all kinds of stuff, then it's a different story. Then I have to go for bigger and better strategies. So I have to do a mental talk. I have to cancel what my brain's trying to feed me. That's really the most important piece, is when I find myself stepping out and saying, this is you giving me information. We've had, Annette Guimarães is a neurophysiologist that has visited us before, and she talks about acknowledging what the brain has told you and then canceling it. Say, thank you. Let's say my brain said, you are worthless. And then I'll say, thank you for the information. Cancel. I have to acknowledge that it's that voice, that monster is telling me something, but I have to cancel it. And then I feed what I need to feed my brain with. And I sometimes will start with, let's see how many positive words can you say one after the other in a string of words. And I will go, peace, love. If I can't find another one because I'm that place, I repeat the same one. Peace, love, serenity. Peace, love, serenity, abundance, health, love, peace, serenity. And I kind of feed my brain with that to just stop and cancel. That is when my brain got to that ugly place. So I have to resource to something that teaches my brain a strategy. So that's what I normally do.
So as a mental health counselor, that happens very often with all of us, right? I see that at work. Exactly what Chris said. It's very helpful to go for a walk in nature, do things that fill our cup, experience joy. But just like Chris said as well, there are some times where we feel stuck and we can't really, and that's what we call a crisis. A crisis is a moment that we feel like we kind of lost it. Sometimes it's like 5 minutes, sometimes it's like all day, sometimes it's for a long period of time. Sometimes it's for years. Sometimes it's that feeling that you're having something and nobody knows, and you look normal, but you know, like deep inside you're not, that you're not well. So I feel like that's when we know a crisis is happening, is when you feel like some sort of out of control with ourselves, with our thoughts. It's very important to, and I feel like this ties in three things that I would like to talk about. First is one thing that we listen a lot in Spiritism is what we call inner transformation. So a lot of times the conflicts that happen in our lives, the difficult things, may that be loss, may that be financial difficulty, be relationship, whatever the big struggle is, maybe a loss of job, whatever the big challenge that is happening, the challenge is offering me an opportunity to learn something, right? So that's the first approach that in Spiritism we learn. I'm a student of life. This is not my first time, right? And the situations are not coming towards me to destroy me. They're coming towards me to teach me. What is my lesson here? And that's when we go to counseling and we discover how we can be humble with our experiences. I don't know what's happening. Sorry. But I would say basically that's the approach. Like, you know, it's very difficult for us to recognize how sometimes we feel victimized. And that's okay. You know, like we feel things are being done towards us. And that's part of being in a crisis. Because we feel powerless. Now, this thing is happening with me. Somebody took my job. Somebody, you know, whatever the situation was. And now I'm this and, you know, and I'm unhappy. So I feel like number one is, even in crisis, I'm empowered. Even in crisis, I have. That's number one first, to like kind of like come out. And then strategies, right? There are many strategies. I would say, I'll tell you guys my favorite, the one that I find the most like successful. And it has to do with meditation. I find it funny because we were talking about meditation. I was like, huh, that's very convenient. So the mind is just the mind. It's not who we are. Why is that? That's not true. I think, therefore I am. No? But no, that's just my brain. That's just what brains do. Brains are specialized in solving problems, right? And there's something called an ego that we all have. And sorry? Solving, creating. No, a brain is extremely important. Like, how would we be alive if we didn't have our brains, right? And we didn't have our egos, which is like, who is talking to you right now? It's my ego, Natasha. This is my ego. But this is not all I am. I'm a being. I'm a spirit. This is not my only experience. And you don't necessarily need to be religious. It's a spiritual. There may be something about me that is beyond the 30, 40,000 thoughts I have every day. And why do I need to believe that my thoughts is who I am? Because when I close my eyes and I breathe 3, 5, 7, which is my favorite type of breathing, that we can all do together during meditation, I feel presence. And this is accessible to all of us, which is the moment for one split second that I am. That I'm not just in your head. Oh, look at this light. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I like that. This smells good. I'm hungry. Should I call this person? Blah, 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 blah. And sometimes, like what Chris said, I do that a lot. I'm like, wow, thank you so much, my inner child, for telling me this. Thank you so much. I think my thoughts. Thank you so much for coming. But you know what? You're just a thought. You're not the truth. I have 30,000 of those thoughts. We have so many thoughts. I feel like we take our thoughts very seriously, as if they were who we are, but they're not. And this is interesting intellectually, right? Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, you know, yeah, I do feel something about me that is beyond just what I think of myself or what other people think. Also because our thoughts change, right? So how come I am one person if I was thinking a certain way when I was a certain age and now I think differently? Am I the same person? Am I continuing? So you see, it's flaw. There are flaws. Like there must be something about us that doesn't change. And that's kind of what we're tapping into. And the moment that we practice presence, that we practice being, which is allowing thoughts to come, thinking them, but just also letting them go. And then in therapy, we talk about the ones that keep coming back. Why are they coming back? They want to help me. Oh, but they're so horrible. They tell me I suck. They tell me like I'm worthless. Well, let's look at it. And that's what we do in therapy. But then, you know, you have a professional, you have a certain time of your week. You're not, you know, we're not doing that in the bed on Sunday afternoon, like feeling depressed. You know, that's not productive. So we do that in the setting of therapy. We investigate those voices. And a lot of times we find out we have limiting beliefs. We have limiting core beliefs. That sometimes comes through generations, right? Comes from our great-great-great-great-grandfather. And the opportunity that we have to be present and to be is the moment that we tap into a different type of consciousness. And this is what we do here at the Spiritism Center. We tap into a different aspect of being a being, of being conscious. Not only conscious of my ego, but conscious of like other parts of me. And we set ourselves free for being enslaved by the brain that is limited, that can only see and touch and smell, and that it's saying that all there is what I see. But at the same time, when we are here together, when we close our eyes, when we meditate, we get in touch with something that is beyond just my thoughts of who I am. And that's it.
We're going to get back to you. I'm going to take this opportunity to ask Will, because we hear a lot of veterans, have not just veterans, but people that suffer some crisis. We have the PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorder, and if you can just walk us through how you survive that and how you find serenity in your art.
All right. Well, I never expected to ever be a soldier, yes. And I was drafted into the Army, and way back in 1965. And I thought it was the end of the world. I was just out of high school, not planning to go further my education. And so I was just working at a menial job at the time when I received this. So I went into the service, and I went through the ranks very quickly. I became a sergeant within the first 14 months. I made rank very quickly. And I went to Vietnam, saw a lot of suffering by fellow soldiers and myself. I was able to combat a lot of the fears that we faced every day, challenges that I never ever thought as a 19, 20-year-old person that I would ever be faced with. But I always believed in God, and I prayed every day while I was there. People, some of the fellow soldiers kind of made fun of me because I used to pray every night and pray for them, and they thought that was kind of funny. But I did it anyway. I was confronted with many different situations while I was there in Vietnam. I was in a transportation unit, and I was a squad leader, and I had 12 men under my command. And at 20 years old, think about that, making life and death decisions for myself and my men, but always carried the thought that I would survive, because I thought that I would do rational thinking when it came time for me to make those kind of decisions, which there was a couple occasions where I made the right decisions, and I was awarded a medal for it because I saved the lives of 6 fellow soldiers by making a split-second decision, and it saved us. When we returned, we were in a bunker. We were under attack, mortar attack. I instructed everybody to get out of the safe bunker that we were in, and they thought I was crazy, and I said, we have to leave this bunker because we're going to get hit. So we ran, jumped into a ravine that was right next to the bunker, and after the attack was over, we went back to the bunker and it was gone. So somebody was guiding me, and I know it had to be my spiritual advisor, I'm sure, because I spoke to him and said, give me the right decision. Let me make the right decision. And as a result of it, I saved the lives of 6 fellow human beings. And I was awarded for it, which I didn't know it, but they had gone to my superiors and told them about what had happened. And I was pulled out of rank one morning and awarded this, what they call an Army Accommodation Medal. And I went into the orderly room and said, what is this for? And they told me, well, these 6 men came to us and they all wrote an affidavit saying that you saved their life. So I'm pretty proud of that, I guess. So that has helped me after I got out of the service. It was not a time here in America that accepted the fact that we were at war at that time. Everybody was against it. So when I remember coming home, I got off the airplane from Vietnam. I mustered out. I got on a plane, came back to Illinois, got in a taxi cab to go to the train station to go to my hometown in Illinois. And I opened the door to the place, and 2 young people came out, and they were dressed like, which I found out they were hippies. I didn't know what a hippie was when I was in Vietnam. And this guy spit on my shoes, called me a baby killer, a lot of other things that took me aback. I had no idea what the man was talking about at the time. And so that's what I came home to. And I thought, wow, this is, I thought I would be, like welcoming home from a soldier. Everything I had ever seen as a young man, the movies and the books that I read of a person coming home from war was always received well. Well, I was not, along with thousands of other young men in my situation. And a lot of my friends were not able to cope with it, became alcoholics, dropped out of church groups, fell away from family, friends, went into deep depression. I tried to rise above that. I saw my friends doing this, and I said they brought it on themselves. And so I tried to, try to do something different. I didn't bury what I saw and experienced there. I talked about it. If somebody asked me about it, I talked about it. Whereas a lot of my friends who saw probably even things worse than I saw, buried it. And they did it through taking drugs and drinking and abuse. And a lot of them, I had one friend who committed suicide because he just didn't feel like he fit back into a square, trying to fit back into a round hole, and it just didn't happen for him. And I had other friends who got married as soon as they got home and were divorced because they couldn't handle that situation. So, and it's a real problem here in America because we ask our young people to go represent us in the military to keep our country strong and everything, but then they don't give the support to us when we get out. I always questioned, when I came home from the service, I was in a fighting condition one day. They gave me a dress uniform, put me on a plane, brought me back, 18-hour flight, come back to the United States. I landed at the Travis Air Force Base, and they mustered me out and not even asked me if I had any problems. Nothing like that, you know. So I thought that that was kind of strange. So I tried to.
People didn't talk about mental health back then.
They didn't. No, they didn't. They didn't try to help. And there was a lot of my friends who, you know, because the drugs were so easy to get when in the service. If you had a friend who worked in the dispensary, all you had to do is go in there. They'd give you uppers, they'd give you downers, they'd give you blues, they'd give you reds, they'd give you all these different, you know, just to help you cope with it. Marijuana was free to everybody. The officers smoked it, the EM smoked it, everybody did, all the way up to the generals. So it was not a bad thing at that time, not in that war situation, because it kind of calmed people, so people thought anyway. But when I got home, I decided that I was not going to allow that experience in my life to destroy my life. And so I've always been interested in art ever since I was a very small child. And as a matter of fact, my mother, when my father passed away, she called me up and she said, look, I was up in the attic, we're getting ready to sell the house. And so I found all of these paraphernalia, you know, memorabilia, I should say, from all you kids. And I have a whole box full of your stuff. Would you like it? I said, yes. So I went, I was living about 100 miles away from where my mother was. I drove home, picked it up, brought it back home, started going through it, and I came across a report card of my first grade teacher saying, William has an extraordinary use of crayons. 6 years old, you know, so that kind of told me something right there, I guess, you know. So I come from a very large family of 10. I was the youngest boy of 5 boys and 5 girls in my family. My father was a cucumber tomato farmer in Illinois. Tough crop. And so I guess he had 10 kids to help. We were all the, you know, the helpers, you know. So, so, you know, we couldn't afford, you know, art supplies and that type of thing. I used to take paper bags, brown paper bags, and iron them nice and flat, and use charcoal, chalk, and pencil, and make drawings when I was, you know, 8, 10 years old. And I started even selling them, as a matter of fact, when I was just a very small kid. So I never had any formal education until I got home from the service. I started, I guess I was 28 years old, I guess, when I took my first art class. And at the end of the first session of the class, the teacher came to me and said, I really don't want you to come back to class the next session. And I said, well, why is that? He said, because you're better than I am already. He said, because, you know, you could be teaching the class up here. So he recommended I not go to the JV school, and I went on to Rockford College because they had a very good art curriculum there. A guy by the name of Andy Lingusis was the artist. And he pretty much took me, I guess, he saw what the talent I thought I was building at that time, and he helped me nail it down, I guess. And I always thought that I was going to have that placard up on the back of the wall that says I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in order for anyone to take me seriously with my art, but I found that that was not what was going to make me a good artist or something, but having that degree. So I moved to New York and opened my own studio, and I struggled terribly when I first started. And I was that person that you would say, a struggling artist. Yeah, that was me. And so I was married at the time, not to my beautiful wife here, but to the wrong person for 21 years. And so finally, she and I parted waves, I guess you'd say. And so, yes, she was a very strong drag on me because she was one of those people who were what we're talking about here tonight. You know, she was lost in space, and I was constantly the person who she was always wanting me to guide her through her life or something. And I was saying, well, you know, there's a lot of ways to help yourself, but she never ever wanted to. She thought that it was through me that I was supposed to be the person to help her become the person that she finally became, I guess. So we parted company, and then I met Juma, and she was who introduced me to Spiritism. And I used to come to all of the meetings, which was in Portuguese. Of course, I don't understand but a few words. I know, you know, I could order something to eat in Portuguese, but that's about it, you know. But when I went, I felt something really strong. It wasn't through the language. It was just through just what was happening in the room, just the vibration and the energy that was in the room. And when everybody speaks so, you know, calmly and everything just, I don't know. I really was enthused and enthralled with it, even though I didn't understand it. I mean, Juma, you would explain a lot of times. I'd say, well, what was that about when they were talking about it? I felt something. So then she would interpret it for me. And that was my introduction to where we are here today. I've been coming here to this meetings here, I guess, for the past 4 or 5 years now. And it has really helped me. I used to be kind of one of those people bouncing off the walls all the time, you know, up and down. And I'm not bipolar by any means, but I do have my ups and I do have my downs. I mean, what they were talking about here earlier. I don't think I have any demons, though. I can't say that I have any kind of demons that attack me or anything. I have to say it's been always strong feelings, emotions. I do meditate a lot because I'm an artist and I'm a painter, and I spend a lot of times in front of an easel, and so I have a lot of time to think about decisions that I have to make or I have made, either right or wrong ones. And most of the time it's a right decision, but I, you know, really enjoy coming here because the feeling of camaraderie of everyone here, the acceptance of everyone, no one really looks at you and, you know, makes demands of you or anything like that. It's just a total acceptance. And so, I mean, I guess this is where we are right now, and thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
And this is the man that I said you have to give a talk here sometime. We need to know more about yourself. So we appreciate Will, and we look forward to other opportunities too. I would just collect a little bit of all you guys said. You know, it is very important once you're in crisis, you know that you're not alone, and there is a problem, there is a solution. So what you do, I do too. I pray in crisis and Jesus, peace, help me, guardian angels, you know, send all of this bad energy to, you know, I try to, and you guys can do this. The spiritual center, it's your emergency room. Mentally, whatever you want to call it, you know, bad spirits, just horrible thoughts, bad energy, whatever, just put in your mind, it does not belong to me. I'm sending all of this right now to the Spiritism Center, and let our friends, our spiritual friends, deal with that. You rid yourself from that, you'll be fine. And once you find yourself a little more calmer, then you make a prayer, because sometimes when you're in a state of confusion, you don't even have the head to and the serenity to really talk to God, and then you do a prayer a little more calmer, and you find your spot. We have about 18 minutes. I'm gonna thank you, Will. Thank you very much, Will.
Very good.
Appreciate it. I'm gonna ask Natasha then to talk a little more about techniques to us, and then we're gonna call Chris here again to wrap it up. We're gonna close by 5 to 8, so you can take that podium there.
I actually would like to know if anybody has any questions or any specific things, because it's a little broad, and maybe we can collaborate a little bit to be useful. So does anybody have any specific things, like any sort of like type of thought or situation, or no need to be shy. I know Robert who wants to like expose, right? I don't know, like any sort of fear, like while driving, or any like objective situation like that, or yes.
So you talked about, Chris talked about the monster.
Yeah.
How do you know when the monster is mental in you, your ego, or external material issues, as opposed to spiritual?
The content.
Yeah?
What is good makes me feel good. What is not good doesn't. I would say the content. Everything that is the reality, our reality, is not always pleasant, right? Like there's pain, there's bad news, stuff like that. But when the content of the thoughts are like making you bigger, better, or better than others, I feel like the virtues are really good, like backbone. Like if you feel like they're coming off from it, that's because it's not a really like an enlightening thought, right? And we have those, like, but in the sense of like, how do I know if it's you're saying like if I know if it's a spirit, an obsession in spirit. Well, man, usually it feels horrible right after the thought. Like it doesn't feel good in the body, usually out of experience. I feel like very down and like really shameful, sad, and it kind of changes your mood out of nowhere. But interesting enough, it's just the same way as when we get triggered. I know this word is very popular now. Everybody's been using a lot of like mental health words online. But trigger means something like completely isolated. I don't know, like an airplane broke, or something like that. And you don't know why, but you get this like feeling from something. And sometimes depending on the trauma or whatever is related to, you can't really you don't really know why that thing, or a lot of times people can't even like recognize that was the reason. We just get these mood swings, we call it. You just get like an off mood out of nowhere. It's never out of nowhere. It's usually like something in the environment triggered us. It's almost like you have like a water. I like to think about in pictures, like you have a water, like a bowl or a pan with water and it's boiling, and that's kind of us, like mental health wise. Sometimes we're not well and we're kind of boiling. We've been boiling for a while, and if it's like too high and you get your hands closed, you can get hurt, right? Some of the water can like just splash on you or something because it's like bubbly and strong. That's kind of how it is. Like we're very sensitive when we're going through mental health crisis. We're very sensitive. Our energy is very sensitive. People screaming around us like it's hard, or big moods and all of that. Like we're very, very sensitive, And so I feel like the key is just to always bring it in. It's always like, I always know exactly how it is. Like it's to trust ourselves. Like I'm the boss here. Like, I don't feel good. That wasn't like a good thought. I like to call those thoughts when I have them, like, oh, my childhood. Like I had a thought and I'm like, it's because with reflection and self-awareness, like you're doing for so long, sometimes you have a thought and you're like, oh my gosh, that was what my mom used to tell me. And like it's internalized until now. So it means like what? It needs work. It's just hard work. It's more hard work than hard. It's not that hard. It's just that it's repetitive. You know, like you have the thought and you're like, you can start to be friends with them, you know, because they're part of us. Like I believe that that's what Jesus meant when he said, come to me, my sheep, come close to me. And I didn't come here for the good ones. I came here for the one that is lost. It's almost like as if our fragmented parts of us are those sheeps, you know, and we need to bring them whole. Let's be whole. So we're accepting those parts of us. I am selfish. Yes, I am. I have envy. Yes, I do. And what's the problem? I have anger. Yes, I have anger. We have anger. And that's okay. Now, what do I do with my feelings? I bring them in. Sometimes, like, I put them on my lap. I love them. They're my baby. It's me. So that's what I like to think when Jesus said that we're just integrating. In psychology words, you're basically like integrating the parts of us that we attribute meaning that is very particular to each one of us.
But sometimes we feel ashamed of them.
Yeah, because for example, in OCD, right, which is a mental illness, you can have thoughts that you want to abuse a child. That's so scary, right? And you have that thought over and over again. That's mental illness, like, you know. And what's the cure, right? Well, the therapy is exposure. Let's look at the pictures. Let's like we make a plan for that. But I just feel like we just don't know a lot about mental illness really. And then we go through life and we have all these experiences and we leave them alone and we try to fit and we try to be normal, the myth, no? And we don't talk about it, you know.
And I think it's very interesting how our friend Will was mentioning about his situation. And I could see one thing that he did was not hiding his experience.
Yeah.
So he talked about. And so I think it's like you always saying, you know, if we face that, once we try to hide, everything, that monster turns to be bigger.
Yes.
It gets out of control. So
Yes.
I think
What if we don't want to talk about it?
Oh, we never want to talk about it. Kidding me? Do you think people come in therapy, they're like, oh, I'm so excited. It's been an hour talking about the worst thing happened with me. Like, oh, I look for this time. No, people come, like, my clients come to therapy and willingly don't talk. And sometimes I'm like, you came all the way here, like, not to talk. Because what? And I say, like, because it's really uncomfortable. Of course we don't want to talk about it. And then I say, let's not talk about it. That's fine. Let's make our relationship stronger because the therapeutic alliance is a very special relationship. I'm very, very grateful. It's a working relationship. It's a spiritual growth relationship. It's very, very nice.
Are you a healer now?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we get invited to the pain. Once
Yes.
we avoid that, we get a certain point that we have no escape. We have to face, or we end up taking different routes, like our friend Willie said about his friend, you know. So I think it's
Yeah, we avoid until it's like, it's just too painful for me to avoid anymore. Like I can't. And the problem is that our mind's so smart that we avoid, but then we start to have intrusions, which are thoughts that just come in. They're just like, ooh, and you're like, ugh. And you're just like, whatever, just not gonna think about it. And then like, yeah, it's just like, why now? You know, or another time you have a dream or a flashback, you know. And that's how trauma works. That's PTSD. Those are symptoms of PTSD. It's like I have a flashback. I feel like I'm right there. You know, I have nightmares of the event, right? I avoid a lot. Avoidance is my number one thing. We avoid places, things that remind us, everything. Because it was so bad, that experience was, I thought it was gonna, basically trauma is, I thought I was gonna die, and I was alone, and I couldn't help myself. And I was on the floor to die. And I was powerless. And that's how it feels. And it feels like you're stuck there over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. And the more we push, the more it infiltrates. Because it's like trying to find like little corners inside of us. And then you may say like, what a horrible like thing, right? Like why? I agree. Like trauma is one of the things that we most discuss now in psychology. There's a lot of what we call trauma informed, and I think we have to go, right? No? Okay. Yeah, we have trauma informed, and this is something we can talk about it in the future.
So, as he said, to be continued, we want to invite you to come next week here and keep this talk. Why say you?
Yeah, it's okay.
Do you guys want it? Are you guys willing to broadcast that too? Thank you.
We can talk more about psychology, about trauma. I feel like it's useful, no? Okay. Thank you, guys.